Recording is on.
Yo, 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 welcome to another edition of the Geeky Bros Podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
Yo, it's just Darcy here.
And this is Big Geek Umar. How y'all doing today?
Pretty good, man. Better than that pregnant pause of yours there.
What pause? You're just making shit up at this point.
Nah, man. You always your timing's just a little, just a hair off. You know what I'm saying, bro?
Nah, I got more than enough hair.
Yeah, you did not get that joke at all.
No. Anyway.
All right.
So the first thing we're going to do today, we're going to shake it up a little bit, and we're not going to talk about geeky news. We're just going to jump into our topics. Our first topic is having to do with it's I think it's dropped now, but it's called Jupiter's Legacy. It is a new TV series that has come out on Netflix. It is based off a comic book by Mark Miller, and is, I think, written with Stephen S. Knight or DeKnight. Mark Miller, for those of you who don't know, he wrote a lot of really big comics. Like he wrote Civil War, the Marvel comic book. He wrote Old Man Logan. And there was one other. Superman Red Sun. So those were his babies that eventually got like turned into movies. And Stephen S. Knight, DeKnight, or I can't remember. I can never remember his name. He has written a lot of stuff, a lot of TV episodes. Like I know he wrote a bunch of episodes of Buffy. I know he wrote a bunch of episodes of Angel. I think he was also a co-executive producer. And he definitely did Smallville and Daredevil and Spartacus as well. Mm-hmm. Did you guys ever watch Spartacus?
I watched like the show. You mean?
Yeah.
I watched like an episode or something, and I feel like it was like it felt like it was changing dramatically between episodes or something, and I was like, "Nah, I'm out." like you guys can't keep your show consistent. Like I got no interest in you. I'm sorry.
Tactics?
Nah.
Actually, Darcy, I think the reason for that was that the main actor actually developed cancer and passed away, so they had to recast him and do a whole bunch of shit after the first season.
Yeah, I think so. But I feel like it also felt like the show just thematically, like between scenes or something, was like so weird for me that I was like, I couldn't tell what I was watching, and it just disinterested me so fast that I was like, I'm out.
I hear that. Anyway, so Jupiter's Legacy has been adapted from the comic book to Netflix as a TV series. I haven't watched it yet. I just saw the trailer. How about you guys? Like, where are you guys at in terms of watching it?
Seen the trailer.
Tax?
Same. Saw the trailer.
Okay. So I would like to do a portion where we give what we did with Invincible. We've all seen the trailer. None of us have watched the show. Let's give our pre-thoughts on it. So Darcy, you want to start us off?
Sounds good. I'm like 50-50 on interest, as in like there's some of the concepts of like passing on a legacy to the kids, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm thinking like Superman and Lois, not that it's the same, but like I'm intrigued now more by a story that's going to bring that human element and the family element into the superhero dynamic because of Superman and Lois. So that part intrigues me. The costumes look, like they're legit to something I don't know. I don't know the source material, but they look like a lot has been put in to make them look like comic book accurate stuff, or just comic book fun, if it was like an original writing. And there was a couple moments in the trailer that I was like, yo, some of this action doesn't look bad, but some of it felt like CW. So I wasn't sure how I felt, like it was like the show kind of felt like CW with a better budget, and then I see a clip and I'm like, that feels like a movie, and that feels like The Flash, and I'm like, I'm 50-50 on my interest level on the show as a whole. Like I feel like I'm gonna either one of the two things is gonna happen. Someone's gonna be like, yo, that show is awesome, you gotta check it out, and I'm like, all right, cool, let me go check it out. Or I'm just going to wait till I'm like, oh, man, I got nothing to watch right now. I'll just put that on.
It could be one of your coding shows.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, or my eating shows, which is like, I love to like, either I'm eating with people or I'm watching something while I eat. And I like to grab shows that like, there's several episodes and I don't really have to pay that much attention. And then I'll kind of like just, put it on the background. So I'm not sitting there staring at a wall. So yeah.
Tactics, how about you, man? What are your thoughts or pre-thoughts?
I don't care. I don't
Really?
care. I really don't. Yeah, I like, to be honest, I until today I actually thought it was a movie, and I was a little bit more interested when I thought that I would only have to sit for like 2 hours of this thing. But then when I realized it was a series, I was like, all right, I'm kind of checked out. So I'm kind of like on the fence about it right now in terms of like my interest level. It's very, very low at the moment, and I'm kind of on the same bandwagon as Darcy, in the sense that I'm probably going to just wait until one of you guys watch it and then says, oh yeah, it's actually pretty dope, and then check it out. But in for me to initiate it on my own leisure, I'm kind of like, and Umar, we were talking about this when you came over the other day, where I'm kind of at the level, and I'm surprised to even say this and a little ashamed, but I'm getting a little bit of superhero fatigue, and Invincible actually like pulled me out of that. Right. But other than that, like there's just so much of it now. And it's like any superhero movies or shows that come out, they have to be, for me anyway, they have to be known properties, or like properties where like a person says, yo, like this is dope, you need to check it out. And like Invincible did that, right? But honestly, after Endgame, I was just kind of like, I even said this. I was like, yo, if they never do another superhero movie again, I'm okay for a while. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of, although don't get me wrong, I'm still excited for a lot of the stuff that's coming out. Like I'm very interested in the Batman movie, and all the other stuff that are set to be released in the next couple of years. But yeah, in terms of this show, I don't know, man. It hasn't gripped me yet, so I'm waiting to hear further reviews.
There's one thing I want to say though, is like not about this movie directly, but your superhero fatigue. We're at a point. I realized this the other day. So did you guys see whether you've seen this or just at least seen the trailer, Thunder Force that Netflix put out, the superhero comedy? It's
that shit was trash. I saw the movie.
It was so bad. Let me just get the actor so I don't mess this up here.
Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy, right?
With Olivia
Octavia Davis.
Yeah,
Octavia
Davis. Yeah, so I'm gonna trash for a second, but when Melissa McCarthy does a comedy on something that's very like canned Hollywood crap, and it's not like a surprising out of the park thing, you know that this genre is overly matured. Like we are really in the mature stage now, because now they're doing like stupid low budget comedies about superhero stuff, because now it's like, oh, we might as well bank on that. You know, the romantic comedy's not working so well right now. So I feel you on the superhero fatigue, that like it better be good and it better introduce something new, right? Superman and Lois is getting us excited because it's introducing a different element that wasn't quite expected and worked. Invincible is just top notch on every level, and is showing us something about the superhero spectrum that we've never seen, right? You know, or at least I've never seen. Oh, I can see Umar's eyes. But like in terms of like the consequence and the reality, and like really grounding something that's fantastical and like the real consequences of it, right? So like I'm watching, like, you know, Marvel's great because we have a lot in Marvel, but I feel like, I don't know if it was a Jupiter's Legacy trailer or something else I saw, where it was just like, oh no, I started watching the Justice Society World War II movie.
Oh, the animated film.
Yeah, and like don't get me wrong, Wonder Woman is actually badass. Like I've only seen like a few minutes, and like Wonder Woman came in, and I was like, okay, you really they took inspiration from the Gal Gadot first movie, where like just the fighting style and like how badass it is. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But there's the non-consequence in the animation that I'm like, the fights felt as badass as Invincible, and then it was like fake again, and I'm like,
yeah.
I need something different. Like repeating the old is getting kind of boring, you know?
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my feeling.
For me, I would have to say that like Jupiter's Legacy, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I have absolutely no interest in watching it. Like frankly, I think I'm going to hold out unless someone says, dude, you got to watch it. Or if I'm like really, really fucking bored one day. And I'm just like, might as well see what's going on with the first episode. But like nothing about it is screaming to me. the costumes, I feel it's better than what we've seen when they do like for example, Titan. Tactix and I were talking about this recently. Like Hawk and Dove, those were comic book authentic costumes, and they do not work in the real world. Yeah, so like this feels like almost at that level, but like not as bad. But nothing about the trailer seemed of interest to me, and also nothing of the trailer felt like it was drawing me in. And frankly, the only reason I remember it is because it flashed on my YouTube. I'm like, oh shit, we should probably talk about that. But like, honestly, unless someone or something is like, dude, you need to watch this, I'm probably gonna take a pass on that. So wow, we are all passing on Jupiter's Legacy.
Sounds like we're relying on Darcy to be the deciding factor of whether we watch this or not. He's the most likely to watch this.
Yeah,
I'm the most likely to watch this like 4 weeks from now, when or in 25 minutes when I'm eating and I got nothing to watch, and I'm like, frick. It's literally going to be out of pure reluctance that I watch this, right?
I can see you watching it literally just before COVID ends, and like when we start talking about it, it's like, dude, guys, like we got to talk about COVID. Forget about Jupiter's Legacy.
Yo, honestly, I honestly feel like this one of two things is gonna happen. I'm gonna watch it at reluctancy. I'm gonna either 5 minutes in, I'm gonna turn it off and go back to YouTube and watch like somebody play a video game, or or it's gonna be amazing, and you guys are gonna hear about it. That's what's gonna happen.
To actually go back to what you guys were talking about superhero fatigue, I would say that I can understand it, but we're living in aside from the pandemic, we are living through a golden age of superhero comic book movies. Like I was telling this to Tactix earlier. When we were growing up, and when X-Men, like the first X-Men came out, in hindsight, that movie wasn't a great film, but like we were desperate for water. And like we were in a desert, and like we found a really shitty oasis, and we're like, you know what? This is water, and this is the best water I've ever tasted. Now we've gotten to a city, then we took a plane to like another world. We're in a metropolitan, and we got like pop and like sparkling water and shit like that. Like we have all kinds of water to drink. We don't need to remember about the oasis because all that shit is in the past. We have so much to choose from. We don't have to drink it all. And I kind of like, this is what like it's essentially turned into comic books in that respect. Like I go to the comic book store, I pick and choose what I'm going to read. I'm not grabbing everything.
Yeah. I bet you we're also going to see like more of these like Melissa McCarthy. I'm horrible with names. McCarthy kind of like cheap budget comedies, and I bet you we're going to start seeing or we already have, and I just don't pay attention to them. Like children, you know, those like children's 3D animated films, that like the ones that are like purely trash. Like there's Pixar, and then there's like all this other stuff we like that are clearly made for kids like 6 and under to go to the theaters. I bet we're gonna get like some ridiculous amount of superhero stuff that's like completely original, but it's garbage. That's gonna start coming out because we're in that area where it's like, yeah, I'm not ever gonna see that.
Technically, I can't remember. Was it you or Darcy who was talking about CW?
In what regard?
Oh no, it was Darcy, because he was talking about like half CW, half of interest.
Oh,
yeah, like I would say that we've at present we have lucked out with Lois, Superman and Lois. Like that's like the 100 level in terms of like quality CW. But, yeah, like this could like even the 100 kind of fell off after a while and went very CW. So I'm really hoping that like the TV shows for superhero stuff stays consistently well, and that like DC/Warner Brothers get their act together and like do some really good fucking movies on that front.
You know what I feel like CW does? They'll like come with a new idea. They'll be adventurous around it. They'll invest. They'll do some on-site stuff. They'll do whatever. Oh, this works. Okay, now let's turn to a formula. And then you just get the same stuff over and over again. It's like the same set, the same whatever. It's like once they've taken the adventure and they've hooked people on something, they just stop trying. It's like, oh, make it cost efficient, you know? And you're like, but now it sucks because it's like the same thing, 6 seasons, and I've not changed like anything. We're at the same location all the time with the same characters, dealing with the same problems. Anyways,
In terms of movies that are fresh from a very retired or very used up like source material, a recent movie that came out called Love and Monsters. Have to say, I don't know if it's like the effect of the pandemic or if it's, you know, just really good confluence of events, but I gotta say, I really enjoyed that movie. It was really, really good for me. But like, I'm actually really interested to see what you guys have to say. So, Tactix, you want to go? You've seen Love and Monsters? What did you think?
I surprisingly I really enjoyed it. I can't remember what rating I gave it. I think I gave it like a 7 or a 7.5. It reminded me a little of what's that Zombieland.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah, it really had a similar vibe to it, and I did enjoy at least the first one. I did enjoy Zombieland, and yeah, I found it to be a nice, entertaining adventure film. I like Dylan O'Brien in terms of the work that he's done. He's got a lot of range. He hasn't been in a whole lot of stuff, but I mean, you know, he was really good in Maze Runner. I know Umar, you didn't like that that terrorist movie that he was in,
Assassins.
with Assassins. Yeah, I liked him for what he did in that movie. I enjoyed the movie. I found it.
His acting was good.
Yeah, like I found it. I believed in his character. But yeah, in regards to Love and Monsters, I enjoyed it. I called out that I knew that was going to happen in terms of the misdirect, or like when he goes to see his girlfriend and she's like no longer interested in him. I was like, I knew that was going to happen. I thought it was going to be more so like she was like the person that she like moved on to was still going to be around, and then he was going to show up and like, oh, like I did this for nothing. But they kind of ended up making it kind of like almost a bittersweet ending, and left it open to them rekindling their relationship. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid film. I'm curious to see where they take it if they decide to do a sequel. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
I'm interested.
Darcy?
Oh damn.
Umar?
Yeah, Umar, go ahead first.
I'm interested, like, what were the things that made it not like higher on your list than a 7.5?
I don't know. I mean, it didn't blow me away. Like it was, it was definitely a movie that I feel like I'd seen before, like Zombieland. Like it was like the same similar trope. It's just like different kind of world building or world scenario. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I've seen the movie before already, and so nothing really surprised me or captivated me on that level where I would give it a higher rating. But for what it gave me, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy this world. I enjoyed some of the characters. I feel like there's potential to make a good quality sequel. Although, like, on the same token, it's kind of like, okay, well, are we going to still kind of continue with this same trope? Like, how do we expand on this world and make it different, but also kind of in a similar context based off of what they've already set up? So I'm curious to see where that goes. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't necessarily want a rehashing of the first movie.
Yeah.
So that's why it was kind of lower on my scale, but overall still a solid film.
Cool. Darcy?
I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna say it was like an 8 out of 10 for me. I was going into it thinking it was gonna be boring, and they broke a lot of the tropes that I was like really hoping, like, please, when we get to this point, like, don't do, like, I didn't want him to get there and then she was like, oh my god, like, I missed you, because then that would have been like, oh my god, like, it's like, thank you for the obvious. And I thought that the guy was going to be there, the ex, but I like that it was open. I feel like what I like about the writing of this story is that I feel like they've written 3 films, and what you would normally see somebody try to squeeze all into one film, they really just let it simmer out. Like, this next film they're setting up is like, okay, everybody accepted this as a new normal, right? And like, it obviously had to be accepted because, I mean, the monster's killing everybody. But but he's the one who kind of like just like a child, decided to just go out there and found that he could do something else, and he's inspiring people that they could do something else, right? And so that is going to be like a really interesting setup, that the story could be really about like people creating a society and fighting back, and now it's much more like like a mini army against the monsters. But the thing I loved that was the core of this story though was just like, you know, I don't know how to describe this. It's not like an underdog, because it's not that, but it's like the small person learning that they can become much more powerful if they just try.
Yeah.
And it was a guy that was the most the most fear, overcoming his fears. And there's always something great in a story around, you know, just like overcoming fear, right? Because we all have fears, and feeling confidence is a great thing. And I just like how they also did the action. I like how they brought in the monsters. It was fun, and that was great. It was like a light tone for such a dark thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really liked the robot. Like I like the actual, like it was fun, but it was also, that was the most intriguing thing in the whole film, because it hinted at that this world that they're in is not like our world. They were more advanced than us in that they were releasing an AI-based robot to live in your house.
Yeah.
So that gave me a nugget to say that what we will see when they expand the world, they might show us some really interesting things that just you know, doesn't follow our rules, and that might make it interesting for us, because we're like, oh, okay, there's an element here that we couldn't have anticipated, because they kept that secret until they showed it to us. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I went in thinking it was gonna be like a 5, and I got an 8, and I was like, yep, glad I saw that.
For me, like I'm on the same front. Like I would say I would give it like an 8.5 out of 10. I love Dylan O'Brien. Like I've loved him since I started watching Teen Wolf. Yes, I watched Teen Wolf, and yes, there were a lot of problems with that series, but he was awesome. I loved him in Maze Runner. Like I said, I enjoyed his acting in Assassins, even though I didn't like the film. And also I liked Michael Keaton's acting in that one too. But I would say like it was more like, yes, they did a good thing about focusing on him, and also they kind of brought him back to what he's good at. Like he's good at the comedy, but also he's good at being like, he's got a lot of range, and this movie played up all of his ranges. Like it showed up how he was funny and also like comedic, and also being like the underdog romance guy, and also the fearful guy who just like runs away from everything. But also they show like he's able to show his fear. He's able to show his like, you know, sarcastic side. He's able to, and all that sort of stuff. And also when you find out the fact that he literally watched his parents die because of the monsters, it makes sense that he is someone who like is fearful. And I gotta say that like this like Darcy, you bring up the robot. That scene with the robot was actually like the most poignant for me, because the robot's able to go on Facebook and show him pictures of his mom and like his dad, like and you know, pictures that would have been like all over our social media is a rarity, and he was able to tap that rarity for just a moment, just after he overcame his fear. And yeah, like I also like I hate. No one loves bugs. Well, no, that's not true. There are people who love bugs, but like a lot of people are not big fans of bugs. So I'm fairly certain there are like, quite a few people who watched that movie who were like, "Yo, centipede" or "Yo, spider" and shit like that. But I gotta say that I really enjoyed them turning things upside down, saying that he didn't get the girl, or did he? I also love that I also love that him and her both saved each other, and they saved everyone together. It's just that he didn't come there and like save everybody. It's like, no, the two of them worked together to like make that work.
She's a badass.
She's a badass, and I have a huge crush on Jennifer Henwick.
Yeah, I love seeing her come from 100, and she looked way better in this than she did in 100. I mean, they made her try to make her look ugly in 100.
I thought she was from Iron Fist.
She's from Iron Fist. She's not from the 100.
Oh, I'm misinterpreting who it is. My bad. The two people look similar. I was thinking it was the remember the one in the 100 who was dating the guy who always did the I'll figure it out 1 second.
Cool. But yeah, like 100%. She was from Iron Fist, and like honestly, she was the best thing of Iron Fist. And I'm glad that like the series ended with her becoming the new Iron Fist, because like fuck the other guy. And yeah, so I didn't expect myself to like that movie as much as I did, but I really, really did. And it also really, really effectively played on the whole, like the social isolation we're all feeling, because those guys were all hunkered down and had nowhere else to go. And it's kind of like when we go out to like get groceries, it's kind of like when they're going out to like get supplies. So yeah, Love and Monsters, 8.5 for me, if not an 8. But yeah, solid film, and one that we all really needed right now.
Yeah, and just to touch up on what Darcy said, it really plays up on the notion of being motivated by love or fear, like the pleasure or pain principle. Because in the beginning of the movie, he's very much motivated by, or he's actually hindered by his fear, and then it's love that actually helps him persevere and goes against that fear, and it's what motivates him and gives him the drive along his journey, which is what I really liked. And it was I actually got a flashback to the scene from Jake Gyllenhaal's first movie, or one of his first movies, Donnie Darko, where scene where he's in the classroom and he has to pick either like the love or fear kind of thing. So that part kind of made me laugh, but yeah, I like that element of or that trope of the love or fear and that motivation behind it. And then also, Darcy, when you were talking, you also made me remember one of the scenes near the end where he frees the giant crab, but he has that like emotional connection moment with the crab, and it was like, it made me think, oh, okay, I feel like this is where they could take the second movie, in the sense of like, it's not just humans banding together against the monsters, it's certain monsters that he now can have some sort of a connection with, and he uses some of these monsters to defend them or to protect himself against the more dangerous monsters out there. Because we even had another moment where it was that other snail that showed up or something like that, and then he had to put his shirt on the snail, and the snail just kind of like went off, like, so like it just goes to show that like, even in this world, there are still creatures that are just like, they're not meant or intended to do any harm to anyone. They just kind of want to do their thing. They want to live in, live in peace, right? So I feel like that's a direction where they can take it, which would be interesting.
And also, it's nice to kind of show where like, not all things that are different are bad. You have to protect yourself, absolutely. Just like they have to protect themselves from us. But like, if you take a moment, just like, and like Michael Rooker said, like, you can tell in the eyes, and literally everyone else is like, what the fuck are you talking about? But like, he finally pays attention to it, and like you said, like, he's able to make the connection because you're able to look in the eyes, and if you take a moment, then it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. Although
fuck that, I don't want to live in a world where there's like giant centipedes rolling around, man. I'd kill myself.
No. Centipedes you got to take out, because clearly those centipedes are fucked up.
Yeah, bro. Like, I don't. You can't fuck with no centipedes, bro.
Yeah, but by the way, the actor I thought it was the one who played a Maury and then married Murphy in the end of 100.
Oh, okay.
And they're very similar looking, and I just thought it was her at first. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's her without the face tattoo on, right? I didn't realize how similar these two look until I realized how wrong I was.
I see what you said. Yeah, right. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this movie was great. I loved how they were both powerful. In this, it was fantastic. Like, it was just, and I also think he realized that by the time he got there, he didn't need her for what he thought he needed her for, and he grew. But obviously, they're still going to want each other. And
well, also he did end it off on a really good kiss, and she's like, "Damn."
Yeah, there was like, oh wait, maybe there is something here. Like, that spark from like 7 years ago, maybe that still exists.
I did actually really love how when he's going out in the beginning, he's like, "Okay, guys, I'm gonna go," and they're trying to stop him, and I love the fact that his crew actually loved him, even though he was technically useless. And like, I remember, like, I think it was like the leader who's like, man, like, you make the food. And like, the guy just like looks at him and is like, it sounded a lot more important in my head when I said it. And I was like,
yeah, I know. It's like, we need you for what? You make the food. Like, not a strong point here.
He's like, look, man, and then I also like how they like signed his map and he didn't see it until the end, and then he remembered I got to go back for my crew. Basically, the messages from this film were really, really good, and I loved all of it. So like, I was all in.
Yeah, and I'm just glad they weren't trying to like a typical Hollywood film, just tie it off and try to do all these things. Like they left the universe to be explored, and I think there's a lot that they could do with that. I think they could get at least 3 films out of this. And
I don't want to get too carried away with like series and franchises and sequels. Like it's sometimes good just to have a one-shot story, but at the same time,
I hear you. But they set it up. And that end, I immediately wanted a second film, and I just feel like at the pacing that they took, they can't solve anything in the next film. So that's why I feel like you can get 3 films out of it. If it's the second one's about getting people together, and the third one is about solving or creating a new normal, whether that's excluding yourself from the aliens or fixing the problem, or not the aliens, but the monsters.
This actually touches on our next topic, which I kind of wanted to discuss. So Tactix and I had this like brief conversation, and it had me thinking. We have, especially so last week we talked about Invincible and the absolutely outstanding ending of that first season. When we briefly talked about how other series haven't really done that. So I want to talk to you guys and also listeners as well. Superhero films and TV series, would you say that they, on average, do good endings, or do they drop the endings?
I'm thinking of Marvel right now and drop the endings. They go up and then they come down.
I think a show runs the risk of dropping the ball ending wise when they've overextended the series. Like I think we get so caught up in the world, and we get so attached to the series as a whole that like even we don't want a series to end, but because we're in denial because of how much we enjoy the series. But it comes a point in time where like they run out of stories to tell. And at that point, they're just pulling shit out of their asses. Like, for example, like, you know me, like I was a fan of Smallville. You know, it did drop the ball like progressively in a major way as the seasons went on. And I don't think that show needed to last. What was it? Like 8 seasons,
10.
not 10 seasons. Yeah, they could have ended that way earlier and still left on somewhat of a better note than they did. Ending at 10, but I feel like just because of the popular, but the same thing with Arrow too. Like Arrow started to take a huge dip, and I feel like Stephen Amell, maybe I think he realized that, and he was like, "Yo, I gotta pull out. Like this is getting too much now. I gotta start doing other things."
You know when the show took a dip? When Stephen Amell fell off that cliff. Like it was good, and then after that point, it was like he died, and then he came back, and then it was like it just never was quite the same. Like that episode was for me like the best episode, and I don't remember it being. Only thing I think remember being good after that was that one time they did the oneer shot like through the warehouse fight, and they did this long like one take shot, and it was the stunts were awesome. That was it, but it wasn't like the episode was good. That moment was good.
Are you talking about when he was fighting Ra's al Ghul? And he got stabbed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with that.
It was a pinnacle. He fell off the cliff, and the show went with it.
And he stayed down there, yo. So I think as much as I love, like, if I'm really invested in a show, I want it to go on for as long as it can. But I think there has to come a point in time where you you end before you get canceled, because I think that's another issue. Like when series run the risk of like overstaying their welcome to the point where networks will be like, okay, well, we got to cancel this. We have maybe one more season left. And if you've been setting up to do like multiple seasons, and then the network comes and says, okay, yeah, this is your last season, so you got to wrap this shit up. Now you have to condense what you originally were setting up into one final season, and sometimes that's where things start to fall apart. And so I think
go on.
No, you were gonna say something.
Or I was gonna say that, like, For me, I would say that I don't think superhero comic book films have a long history of sticking the landing period. Like whether it's in the film itself or in the series overall. Like MCU, aside from the first Avengers and the definitely not the second one, the third and the fourth one of Infinity War and Endgame, those three definitely stuck their landings. Winter Soldier, I would say, like it did. The ending wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as good as the rest of the film. Civil War, like that one landed very well, very good. But like other than that, like out of all the films that Marvel has done, I can't really think of anything that has done like a really good ending. And it kind of shows in how the series, like the TV series, have ended. Like WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier both kind of had those really weak landings. And I'm just trying to think of like. Well, I have my issues with Snyderverse, so I'm going to leave that universe not for me to judge. But X-Men's X-Men 2 definitely sucked at their landing. X-Men 3 was just sucky. Days of Future Past, I think, was a decent ending. And Logan, I fucking love that ending of that film. But like literally that's really all that's it. And we have a lot of material. Like even Daredevil, the Marvel, like, or I should say the Netflix series and all the other Netflix series is like those ending, except for the third season. Third season's ending was fucking top notch when he was like fighting Wilson Fisk and was like I think Tactix, you were the one who told me that he lost his voice and he just kept doing the scene anyway.
I beat you. That gave me chills, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So like again, like these are just handful of things out of like the entire history of films and TV. I gotta say, I don't think comic books have a good ending TV. An ending ratio. What do you think, Darcy?
So I'm gonna go to WandaVision and Falcon for a second because they're recent, and I want to say something about them. I think that the main problem I find, and I respect what Tactix was saying about like you have to condense it. Like once you have to condense it, you're pretty much screwed, right?
Yeah.
Like if you had 3 seasons left in your story, but let's just say you're right. Like, let's say you're not something of set of cancellation. You take those 2 shows, which clearly they only plan to do this season, right? For now. And the last episode sucked. So I think what the problem with those 2 is, it's not that their concepts for the last episodes were bad. It was the delivery of the concept. So like, if you want to have a good season, you should plan your last episode at the freaking beginning, right? Before you start. You need to know where you're going, right? If you look at something like Ozark, like this stuff is like solid all the way through, right to the very end. A lot of great dramas leave you on an amazing last episode. They wrap up the story and then send you off going, hey, hold up. What's happening next season? You just, what did you just do there? You just go end it there? Oh, damn. And then you're so excited. But I feel like WandaVision and Winter Soldier are setting up for a movie, right? Fantastic. And WandaVision, her resolving of her grief, that moment was amazing. And overall, they set up some good points and some good ending, but the spectacle of the fight just was so whack that it pulled the quality of the episode down, right? Falcon and some of it was the fighting was definitely the weak part, but then it was like this big moment that made sense, and that made sense why they were going to that point of the film, but the delivery of it was weak, right? Like standing in the street with a couple of officials, it felt hokey, right? It didn't feel real, right? And so I feel like some of it is, usually most of the time they fail at it because they don't plan the ending. They plan episode by episode. Let's milk this train. Let's milk this train. Oh, we got to wrap up, right? And that's how it feels to the audience. And I feel like some of these other ones, it doesn't land because they don't understand what they need to deliver at the last moment, right? They if it's going to be a big fight, you better deliver that big fight. If I'm waiting all this time, if I've seen good fights and the last fight isn't as good as the other one, you should have switched your budget around. You should have gave me a little more character development and a little less in that fight and put that money over here. Because when that moment doesn't sell, that's the last thing I got to remember. It's like, you know, oh, I'm gonna give you a 3-course meal, and I'm gonna go half-ass on that dessert, right? Like he's like, it leaves a bad taste, right? So I don't know. I just feel like they don't focus enough on how they're exiting. I feel like they need to really put more love into how they exit the films, and so that they can give that bigger spectacle in that superhero world.
Do you think that superhero TV series or movies need a fight at the end?
No, because like, I mean, they need to know what they're trying to do. Are they trying to leave you with an emotional moment? Are they trying to leave you with a fight spectacle? Right? You know, like you're fighting Thanos, and you know we're not gonna have a heart to heart, right? Like that's not how we're ending this film. Okay, we're not gonna sit down and have a therapy session with Thanos. Okay, so that one you need to fight, right? One that does a beautiful job of being a fight, but is really more about the emotion is Civil War. That fight is just about the fight is the point of indifference between them, but it's about the emotion of everything for every person. And like, there's 3 people in there who have 3 different emotional weights in that moment, and then you have the side thing with Zemo and T'Challa outside, which that was fantastic, right?
It was awesome.
But that was all about emotion. It just had to come through in a fight, and they did a great job of making it a spectacle. But I don't mind if a movie had fight. Oh, it's dope, and the last thing they give me is not a fight. The last thing is a real deep emotional moment where they decide to put the guns down and they do something different, right? I wouldn't have minded if what Anthony Mackie Falcon was doing with the villain. I forget her name right now. I'm seeing
Harley.
Yeah, that's how bad I was with names, bro. I could say it 2 minutes ago and I'll forget. But I wouldn't have minded if they had that initial therapy session and maybe John Walker didn't break it up or whatever, and then later on that's how they solved it at the end. Like maybe he had a heart to heart with her, and somehow that was televised or something, and something where like it wasn't resolved through the fight, then through the conversation. It was something empathetic that led to the bigger conversation, right? I'm not saying how to write that, but just saying like if that was the whole show built up and then you didn't have a fight, I would have been down with it because it made sense for his character to do that.
I was saying this to Tactix where, like, for example, Doctor Strange, I actually loved how that movie ended in the fact that he didn't get into a fight with Dormammu. He outthought him. Like, it was kind of like, I will keep us here, and keep hurting me all you want, but you will never be able to leave. So let's I came to bargain, and I love that aspect of it. And I would say like Doctor Strange is one of the few movies that I got a little bit of a soft spot for it because all the magic, and I love Benedict Cumberbatch, and I also liked how the movie ended. But like, Tactix, sorry, I didn't ask you. Do you think that superhero films / comic book movies or TV series need the big fight at the end, or are you kind of in agreement with Darcy?
I kind of agree with both of you. You bring up a good point when you with the example of Doctor Strange. I think that's a special case just because Doctor Strange isn't typically a fisticuffs character, right? So he uses more magic, right? So I would expect him to use more wit and magical tactics in order to get the job done rather than just resorting to strict violence, right? But for any other character, like if it's like a Captain America type character, I do want to see some action. I'm a sucker for the action and a good choreographed fight amongst hero and villain. But I also think that it's important to sprinkle in the emotional aspect to it as well. Like, for example, what they did with Bucky and Captain America in Winter Soldier, where there was a showdown between them, but you could see that Captain America didn't want to fight Bucky because that's his best friend. And at a certain point during that fight, he restrained himself and he just let Bucky wail into him, right?
Into him, yeah.
Right, because it was like, this is the only way you're going to listen to reason, right? It's like the only way I can get through to you. It's like, you're under some sort of mind control. You're my friend. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to fight you. So I surrender. So things like that, where it tugs on the heartstrings a little bit. Like if you add that shit in there, like I really enjoy that. And then on the same token with WandaVision, what they did where it was like White Vision and regular Vision, they were fighting and then they stopped and then, you know what I mean? And then they had that dialogue and it's just like, okay, yeah, give me a little bit of the action, but then sprinkle in some of that emotion or that logic, and that in this case, to help further along the story or to take it in a different direction rather than just following the same old standard action hero trope where it's just like, you know, I hit you, you hit me, and then we hit each other until one of us goes down, kind of thing, right? It doesn't always need to follow that same kind of formulaic style. So I like if they add elements of both. But for me, I do appreciate a good fight scene at the end, just as a final kind of payoff. It was the same thing that we saw in Matrix Revolutions, where it was like they started like Neo and Agent Smith, they fought, and then Neo was just like, okay, like I gotta outsmart you. I'm not gonna be able to beat you one-on-one with my hands, and so that's how that kind of went down. So I appreciate those kind of endings.
I have a secondary question to ask you guys now. We have talked about like endings a lot in this episode and also last week. So, Tactix, I think it was you who asked me this question. Mm-hmm. Would you rather a series or a TV series end badly after having a fantastic run, or end too early when it's doing fantastic? And Darcy, this question also came out of our like very brief moment of us talking about Game of Thrones last week.
Yeah.
So
that's the first thing that came to my head when you said series ended badly. Game of Thrones.
Yeah. But like, so what would you guys prefer, honestly?
I mean, between getting kicked in the balls or getting kicked in the balls, I don't
know. Honestly, for me, as much as I hate when a show ends very abruptly, like for example, I hated the fact that Daredevil ended after season 3 on that cliffhanger. And I also mentioned another show that I really enjoyed. It was like a family show with a sci-fi element, Kyle XY, that also ended on a cliffhanger, and I was super upset about that. But you know how I feel about, I'm very vocal whenever I make reviews on Instagram, how I feel about shitty endings. And we talked about this in regards to Soul, which wasn't a terrible ending, but it left very little to be desired. And I think that a lot of people, you know, overhyped their enjoyment for that film based off of the fact that it was I don't know if this is wrong or inaccurate, but it was one of the first Black Pixar films of its time, kind of thing. And so
you and I are like an outlier in who like we felt the ending was weak.
Yeah, I and like everyone's like, oh no, you're crazy, man. That movie was awesome. I'm like, I'm not saying the movie was bad. It's just I found the ending to be very, very flat. It could have been way better because they set up a lot of stuff and they left very little to be desired. So it was kind of like, you know, so that's what made me rate that movie a little bit lower, because like, and it's the same thing with WandaVision. It's like, okay, you set up this world, you know, you're watching it and I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going now. I'm really enjoying it. And then you give me a lackluster ending and it just kills the entire show for me. I would have liked it if I would have given it a higher rating had they landed the ending. So for me, to answer your question, I would rather a show end early, like a prime example, Daredevil, where as much as I want more, what they gave us so far, like that show was like near a 10 for me. Like, even though we're not going to get a continuation, I have like next to nothing bad to say about Daredevil as a whole based off the seasons that we got. So yeah, for me, it's I'd rather it end too early than end badly.
Darcy?
Well, I think overall, I even though I hate both, I would say end early, because usually the creators are trying their best to condense what they plan to do, which means that they're putting as much love and care in a bad situation. And if I were to take a show like the Netflix Sense8 show, which I loved, and it ended early, and then the people rallied around and they got Netflix to bring it back for a finale because it ended early, and then Netflix came back and said, all right, we'll give you a 2-hour film. This show is too expensive for us to continue, but you guys love it so much, and it's about inclusivity and whatnot, so, and diversity, so we're going to give you a 2-hour ending. And that ending was definitely rushed, but I'm like, we got something, right? Whereas Game of Thrones is a special ballpark all to itself in terms of ending badly. Okay, like literally, you set up okay. Let me go here. Okay,
yeah.
Dexter was a show that got little like weak in the end, and then the last moment where he's just like, he's in Alaska. You like made no fucking sense. But now they're actually gonna restart the show, and apparently it's gonna be good. And I'm sure that'll get explained, right? But that was like bad, but in like a stupid way. But it was like I still enjoyed the show. Game of Thrones actually made me hate the show because they set up this amazing female character, and then the last season, a few episodes, she just completely switched her entire character around and did everything in the opposite of what she would do, because they're like, oh, power corrupts, and I'm like, power didn't corrupt her at this point, and she like ran half the freaking world, and then power corrupted at the end because why? Like, it just, I'm sorry, nothing happened at this point other than the fact that you motherfuckers wanted to leave and just wrote women badly at the very end because y'all motherfuckers didn't care. I'm sorry, those writers pissed me off so much. That show was so good, and then they just were like, yeah, we're gonna phone it home. We're gonna take a character who's set up, who like frees the black slaves and brings women into power, and like every time someone has a decision to make, she finds a different way to make a decision, and every time a man thinks she's weak, they fucking die, and then at the very end it's like, nah, I'm just gonna kill everybody. I'm gonna kill all the innocent people, the people she's been rallying for 6 freaking seasons. I'm just gonna take my dragon and kill everybody. I'm like, and then they're going to take the one guy who's like, I'm never going to be the king. And he becomes the king. What the hell? I'm sorry. So, yeah.
Don't apologize. You're speaking all of our truths right now, man.
I would rather show end early because at least the creators are given a last-ditch chance. I mean, yeah, sometimes they just end it in the middle of a season on them and they get nothing. And then there you're pissed off. But you're not pissed off at the writers because they were doing a good job, usually up until that point. Just all of a sudden got taken away, right? It's like being robbed and you come home and you don't got your shit no more. But ending badly, you had the chance to end it right, and you just screwed it up anyways.
Yeah, like I'm gonna say I agree with both of you. For me, I don't know about you. I'm being presumptuous here, but I have been hurt as bad as Game of Thrones multiple times. Like Young Justice, even though we got it back, I haven't really watched the 3rd season because I don't find it interesting anymore. Young Justice, when it got canceled, it was still like the 2 best fucking seasons they had.
I enjoyed it.
Firefly, when it got canceled, I was devastated, but I still love it to this day. Game of Thrones went the way of Lost and Battlestar Galactica for me, in terms of like epically bad. I would say that Buffy almost went there. Angel was a weird ending.
Yeah, well, look who's behind it.
Well, yeah, no. Actually, Tactix, didn't you say something about like the ending of Angel?
I hated it because it was like it was such a bad cliffhanger, man. Because it was like or pre-apocalyptic setup where all these demons come out of nowhere and they attack wherever he's from, and then
an alley.
They just end it. Yeah, they just end it. They're like, all right, time to save the world, and then it's done. And I'm like, what the fuck is that shit, man? Like
Smallville, we finally get the thing we wanted for freaking
and like, all we get is a shirt that he bought from probably like Spencer's or some shit. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like honestly, like Battlestar Galactica and Lost, like those were the shows that like people built up for years. Like, think of like how upset we were about WandaVision not finishing. Can you imagine if that was like 5 years of them leading us to that level?
I don't remember Battlestar Galactica's ending, though. I definitely don't remember being pissed off like I am about Game of Thrones.
Okay, let's put it this way: the final season, the first half of the final season was freaking amazing, and then the second half, like they did not know how to tie up all the loose ends, so they just were like turning like circles in like in the writers' room, and be like this, and this, and it was a 2-hour finale, and I remember watching it with my best friends at the time, and we were all just like, we got half an hour, they can turn it around. We got 15 minutes, they can turn it around. And then we were in the last 5 minutes, like, I don't think they can turn this around anymore. And then like it ended, and we're like, that was some bullshit. And I haven't gone back to Battlestar Galactica, just like I haven't gone back to Game of Thrones. And the same, so I haven't gone back from Lost.
Do you think shows should make a comeback based off of their ending to right the wrongs from how they ended? Or would you rather just like them cut their losses and then like leave it? Because now, like Darcy said, we have Dexter coming back and picking up where it left off.
Dexter wasn't as bad of an ending. Like, if really, it was.
But
just
I'm just saying in general, right? Because they've done that with a lot of other shows. Like Prison Break is another example where they brought that back. Young Justice they brought back. Right. So would you rather, for both of you guys, would you rather a show come back, like for example, Game of Thrones? Would you rather them revisit that property from okay, so Darcy has his answer.
I will say yes to that because I want them to fix that shit.
Yeah, okay. Yes, but no at the same time. Like Battlestar Galactica and Game of Thrones, if you want to tell a new story and resolve the problem, great. But the problem is if you're going to fix it with the same cast and enough time has passed, you will never capture the magic, and the characters may visually have changed enough that like it will feel bad. Like, you know, when you get these reunion shows and you're like because like, oh, Netflix like give us back Friends, and we're gonna get an episode of Friends, and I know it's gonna suck because those motherfuckers do not look like they used to. It's gonna be whack, right?
It's a really good question, Tactix. To be honest, I would have to say it depends on the writers, and it depends on it depends, because like Game of Thrones, I would like, to be honest, I'd much rather them redo it in like 10 years time and redo it properly. With Battlestar Galactica, well, they're already remaking the series, so but I'll find out how that goes. But like Young Justice for me proved that once the magic is gone, the magic is gone. You can't, like, even if you get the exact same team to come back, it's not the same, because I'm not digging the season 3 of Young Justice, and I never thought I would say that.
Yeah, I stopped watching too.
I finished it. I enjoyed it. I won't say I enjoyed it as much, but I definitely still enjoyed it.
It definitely lost its steam from the first series.
Yeah, like.
And also, there's time that passes, and you can lose your own steam with the show.
Yeah, it's just way too long. Like, way too much time has passed.
Yeah, I would say that I would prefer it to, like, I would want it to end early, or I would want it to like end not so. Like Dexter, I'm fine with a revisit, because it was like you just need to fix the finale of it. You don't have to fix the entire story. Game of Thrones, it literally reverberated back in time in my mind and ruined the series. The same with Battlestar Galactica, the same with Lost. Let's just say that I've been hurt. These were 3 relationships that ended very badly and turned me very sour towards women. So like, let me just say that, like, I just want the next woman I date.
Wait, wait, what?
I compare TV series to women, because
that's how
single
literal.
I am.
Okay, but that's not very literal. Like, you actually stop dating after. Like, this show sucks. I am not dating anyone.
I will never marry and have children after this show.
It's like, what were you watching again? Was it like a birth film?
No, but to answer your question, Tactix, just leave it alone. Don't bring it back.
Yeah. So it depends.
It depends. It really depends. Yeah.
You could write more to Dexter because it's a small cast and a small concept. Game of Thrones is like such a giant piece that you have to start. And there's like hundreds of people. You have to redo this thing. You can't just be like, imagine trying to get 100 people back on a show, like contractually. Like you be that is a show in of itself. So yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we answered all the questions for today.
Yep. And talk about ending things badly.
Dude, I will say we did